back in my day, you know, those days we used to walk from A to B, right? So you have to get the setup, and once they give you the setup, then they go in for the kill with the message, right? So we all know about a Tanty, and probably a conversation with our Tanty could sound something like this, you know, especially with us being on the internet, you know. Those things, you know, our Tanty would say, back in our day, that's not how we used to meet and talk to people. We go to the places and we see the people, right? So maybe a conversation with our Tanty could go like this. Beware of strangers, beware of strangers, for not everything that glitter is gold, not everything that sugar is sweet. I learned this lesson and many, many more sitting at my mother's feet. Oh, take time, walk good, tread soft. Teeth waking, no always laugh. For the teeth where they can and smile with you will soon turn round and bite you. Right? Probably the message would sound something like that. But what if all our Caribbean Tanties from all the islands got together, they came to a table, and they're all sharing a meal, and they're talking about back in the day? And what if some of what they're saying could be used to inform policy? What if it could be used to inform how we present ourselves as the Caribbean globally in all stages, visual arts, film, you know, all the creative areas? What if we had a Tanty to inform us, you know, on how to culturally present ourselves in strategy, policy, visual arts, right? So I came today with a few friends. We have Debbie. She's going to give us some innovation, some systemic policies, you know. What if Tanty, you know, could inform policy? Then we're going to hear from Makeda. Makeda is coming to give you the brand as soul. You know, when we brand ourselves as Caribbean nationals, you know, how do we present our brand? You know, it needs to have soul, right? And then after Makeda, you're going to hear from me. I'm going to tell you on how we can preserve a nation's culture through film, right? All our cultural elements, the cultural nuances, how can we keep it relevant in this current age globally? And then after me, you'll hear from Donisha, and she's going to talk about policy. How can the storytelling elements from our Tanties inform policy, recommendations, and actual solutions that we can actually put into place? So first up, we're going to hear from Debbie. Take it away, Debbie.
Thank you so much, Makeda. I'll just give a minute for them to pop the presentation up on the screen.
All right, we'll move into the next presentation on the monitors.
What if policy had a Tanty?
What if policy had a Tanty?
Okay, so what if policy had a Tanty? Someone with wisdom who cared, who had the ability to see all her people across all their differences, all their situations, to pull them close, to understand them. If Tanty was looking out for Caribbean policy, she might say, "Sweet girl, remember to include the young fella across there. He might not look it, but he got enough sense. Bring he in, talk to he, make sure you include he." She might say, and this problem, I know you're trying to solve it, and you got enough book learnings. But book learnings from over and away not sufficient. If you really want to help she, you got to get to know she. You got to understand where she coming from, what she's do. That That ain't gonna work for she. You talk to she yet? We have a saying in Barbados, you can't plant yams and reap eddies. It's a little ancestral wisdom to guide transformative change. Sorry? It's a little ancestral wisdom to guide transformative change. What if some aspects of our culture are more than history and heritage, but a living strategic resource? The ancient wisdom passed down through sayings and stories, practices from all our diverse influences. They hold powerful clues for designing innovative systems that are more inclusive, resilient, and relevant to us. We haven't entirely lost them yet, even as we advance in modern development. So might we use this unique positioning as diverse people somewhere between two worlds, or more than two, to chart a new course for ourselves and to help our friends across the world to move from where we are to where we need to be. Oh, this is a mic. What if there was more ancestral wisdom to tap into? To navigate complexity, I might suggest, we need cultural confidence and the courage to shift perspective. Beyond decolonization, and in addition to that, perhaps this is a little deeper, let's talk cultural syncretism and the magic of a world where we can all belong and form our own thing. Fully embracing diversity and multiple identities, somewhere at the intersection of all of us, pulling what we choose from every culture that has made us who we are. Across Caribbean policy and strategy, Across the Caribbean, policy and strategy are sometimes shaped by imported frameworks that don't always speak to the ways we live, what we remember, and how we make decisions, nor do they fully embrace the complexity of us in the global South. By pairing a contextual understanding of our past with the professional strategic design practice, we can craft preferred future narratives, if you will, that are inclusive and that are equitable. And then we identify the mix of interventions needed to transition towards them. Next slide. So where are we now? Globalized industrialization has gone wrong and it's worsening. We might say the world is on fire, literally and figuratively. Climate change is burning up our world, and the Caribbean is lagging in innovation, facing slowing economic growth and global widening inequality, fires that need to be outed. We need to shift course and transition to better futures that are more sustainable. There's hope. We've maintained a connection to the past and ancestral ways, and we're at the intersection, a foot in each world. And will we be a bridge? How can professional design thinking and design doing help us? Next slide. Now, design is a verb that humanity has been practicing from the beginning of time. It also refers to a range of professional disciplines, and both are friendly and familiar with innovation. We can find professional designers bridging the gap from invention to innovation adoption across a range of design disciplines. Embedded in the best of global design companies, you will find designers doing just that. And that's not recent either. The contributions of industrial, product, other design disciplines to the development, manufacture, and sale of household appliances globally is well documented. And the mix of design disciplines and actions that see to the evolution of new products and lifestyles, that's also notable. Design can help innovation development and adoption as we consider feasibility, viability, and desirability, and we pursue what's possible. And we're there, bridging the gap between what is and what could be. Even in the Caribbean, next slide, we sense this. We use graphic and visual communications design to help our brands carve new spaces as we export and penetrate new markets. Even fashion design and design strategy and management, along with engineering and craftsmanship, might help us address our plastic problems. We have so much plastic in the Caribbean, and the problem is exacerbated by tourism. it's not Caribbean people necessarily, because we'll take the garbage bag, we'll take the plastic bag and make it a garbage bag. But might we do something somewhere at the intersection of solving our plastic problem and drawing on our traditions with basketry and making to create something new, products out of what was? Design disciplines are wide and varied, and professional designers can often be found pairing their expertise with the creativity and the thoughtfulness of the arts to bridge gaps and address complex problems that businesses, societies, and governments are trying to solve. If we want to talk about innovation, next slide, and innovation policy, maybe we should talk about design. This is Dr. Terry Irwin, transition design academic, and she says design as a third culture sits between two poles of science and the humanities and is at the heart of questions related to feasibility, viability, and desirability. Moving beyond the various traditional design disciplines, design methods have gained popularity, especially in promoting approaches to innovation that draw from design practice, what we do as designers. So as we talk more about STEAM and innovation in our region, STEAM being science, technology, engineering, arts, math, when we talk about that and its relationship and its relevance to innovation policy and economic development, might we also embrace design methods and both empathize with and include the people who we're designing policy for? So, next slide. In my business, I pair design methods, economics of innovation, cultural intelligence, and professional design practice to nurture transformative change. Next slide. I bring systems thinking and serious strategy design with a heart and a uniquely Caribbean perspective. And our methods reflect decolonization and also embrace our Caribbean cultural syncretism. We're a melting pot of so many people and places, and our rich heritage is uniquely its own, with some of the best of all the cultures that have shaped us. And if you've ever eaten my falernum apple crumble, you'll know it's not British, it's not African, Indian, or American. It's a delicious mashup of cultural influences, but it's undoubtedly Caribbean. And maybe this plurality is part of our magic. Next slide. I'd like to share just a little bit with you about how we blend all this together in work that's technical, serious, but is flavored with fun, like my falernum apple crumble. Among our design facilitation tools is Folksight. It's a little Caribbean folklore to support strategic foresight. And whether we're engaging senior leaders or children, we can all benefit from methods that promote creative thinking and conversations across groups, or lateral thinking and dialogue. These methods include us, they connect us, they ignite shared imagination, restore hope, and identify bridging initiatives that can help us transition from where we are to where we need to be. So let's meet one of our Folksight characters. Next. Now, Tanty is not drawn from traditional folklore, but her cultural presence is unmistakable. She may take different names and faces across our islands and communities, but we know her. Her influence is unmatched. With her level of soft power, she must be magical like folklore, so she belongs in our lineup of Folksight characters. Tanty knows her people deeply. Every child, every neighbor, every story. Sometimes she in your business. Her power is in presence. She can halt bad behavior with a look. She can influence action with a pout. And she comforts by carving safe spaces of community. And when she wields her pot, spoon, spices, and seasoning, she fills tummies, feeds souls, and fuels the next generation. When people need community, connection, correction, or inspiration, Tanty moves hearts. Next slide. Policies sometimes favor those with disposable income or other forms of privilege to capitalize on opportunities. But what about those who don't have the privilege, for tax incentives, for example, or who can't qualify, even though they might be key beneficiaries? How would a Tanty view of inclusion and care for the everyday, lived realities of different individuals shift system-level interventions? As Tanty looks across the current landscape, she might say they should be remembered, listened to, and engaged with in ways that are comfortable for them. Her awareness and her sensitivity might make her proposed mix of policy interventions and policy instruments shift as she considers her people, their culture, and their social behaviors. Her comfort with the complexity of us might help her bridge the gap between development theory and the practical intricacies of Caribbean economies and societies. Next slide. Tanty and our other Folksight lenses capture valuable perspectives that existed long before us, influencing who we've become. Introducing Folksight complexity into inclusive policy dialogue and introducing Folksight complexity into how we facilitate inclusive policy dialogue and develop strategies could help us see better as we remember, reflect, and reimagine. Our cultures can be archives of innovation and inspiration. Next slide. The data is in. Our region is lagging behind in innovation. We're faced with complex socioeconomic challenges and their ripple effects. Some of our businesses are struggling with productivity, innovation, and the ability to compete on a global scale with customers, even locally, who have global choice. This is our context. We know how to make do because we've had to. Our ancestors created zero-waste, banana leaf sustainable packaging for conkeys, pastels, and dukana. Not to be trendy, but because they had to. Rough times. And that's so much of what our innovation has historically looked like. Necessity and working with what we have and what was there. This is part of our cultural history. We haven't fully evolved out of that yet, that make and do. But can we reject settling for make do and intentionally design the systems to move from make and do to making it? In Caribbean vernacular, to make it is to make it. And as a designer and design strategist, this is familiar territory. And for me, making it is more than crafting everyday things or just getting by. It's about designing and making the transformative change we need a reality by embracing and including the complexity of us at the design phase. And this is our economic and industrial development opportunity. Next slide. Because in Sweet Girl Tanty's view, when we really make it, we all thrive. In this time of crisis and complexity, we have an opportunity to do things differently, to bring the best of professional design disciplines into conversation with our local realities and our inherited wisdoms when innovating and developing policies that work for us. This can help us keep the benefits of academic rigor, there's value in that, see and include each other, honor our culture, history, and heritage, boost our confidence in our intelligence and what we can achieve, and acknowledge our interrelatedness and interdependence when we design from within. Thank you.
Now we'll hear from Makeda.
Hi, everyone. Good night. I noticed that while my teammate was talking, a lot of us were on our phones. So I'm going to start my presentation with a little game so we can be engaged and lived, right? So in Jamaica, we have this game called ABC Fast or Slow. So we ask a person ABC Fast or Slow, and then you will reply fast, and then I'll say start. So in your head, you're going to be saying the alphabet, A, B, C, whether fast or slow. All right? Ready? Who's volunteering, or do I need to pick somebody? My gentleman at the back. White and black shirt. All right, so ABC, fast or slow? All right, start. In your head, you're not supposed to tell me, yeah. Stop. B. I know you wanted to say C. All right, that's fine. You want to work with C or B? Let's go with C. C, all right. So, C, give me one luxury brand off the top of your head that starts with C. Coach. High-end man. Okay. Why did that brand stand out to you?
I like the design.
You like the design. Do you know the history behind Coach?
No, I do not.
Surprisingly. So, as a customer, why would you buy it, apart from the design?
I just like how it looks.
You just like how it looks. Okay. If I were to ask you, do you see a Caribbean brand in the luxury industry that is high-end like Coach? Could you give me an example?
I don't think I could.
Wow. You see how long he took? And how long did it take you to say Coach? Not that long. 5 seconds. That was very interesting. So that's part of my conversation today. I'm going to be looking at how we can redefine what luxury means in the Caribbean from the soul of a brand. So that little exercise was good. What do y'all think? It was good? Great. All right, so if I was playing that, I would have also chosen C, because C is mostly common in luxury brands. I don't know why people like naming their brands after C, but if I was to play that game, I would choose Chanel, because Chanel is a luxury brand. It's timeless. It embodies elegance. And of course, it's about the history of Coco Chanel, her legacy, and what she built. So my opening hook is, can I have my, okay. Just keep going? All right. What if branding started with ancestry and not algorithms? Because, you know, nowadays it's all about trends. What's trending on TikTok now? My lady in the green. You have no idea. How about my friend right here? None? Is everybody on social? No, you're not too old. Robert? Music, dance, any trend. Mm-hmm.
The Chris Brown dance.
Oh, the Chris Brown dance, so that's music. Do you see anything trending from the Caribbean?
I don't get the algorithm.
You don't get that algorithm.
If you're in, it depends on what location you're in that you'll get, and who you follow, you'll get that algorithm and what's trending.
Nice. And do you know that algorithms, they read, so they're kind of like codes, and they read what you're consuming, what you're watching, what you're liking, what you're commenting, who you like, who you follow. And if you notice that whenever you go on TikTok, even in the Caribbean, there's nothing coming up as Caribbeans. Nothing at all. So what if, as I said before, what if branding started with ancestry? Let's imagine for a moment, Carnival. Everybody knows Carnival, right? Why do you attend Carnival? For the music. How did you know about Carnival? Bajan culture. So who introduced you to that? Your parents. And your parents' parents and their parents' parents, and the tradition goes on. Yeah, so when you talk about using ancestry in branding, that's a part of it. Passing on these traditions from one generation to another generation without having to use algorithms. As you say, you don't use social media. So what if we could take that ancestral passing of what we love in our culture and brand it? So we don't have to going through TikTok, can't find anything about Barbados, can't find anything about Jamaica, can't find anything about Trinidad. We literally have to go in the search, Jamaican trends, Barbados trends. So that's my question, why? So let's look at Nike, for example. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. All right, let's start with the soul of the brand. Now, when you hear soul, what comes to your mind? Spirit, lady in the red dress, beautiful. Is that a romper? Yes. What comes to your mind when you hear soul?
Heart, core.
Heart and core, nice. How about my sister over there? Very quiet. Coming from within, spirit, what you feel. All right, what about my sister right here?
A divine experience that's happening.
So if you notice, when I asked the question, everybody said divine and within, and it's all familiarity, right? So when you speak about the soul, you speak of the core, as you said. It's the core of who you are. It's the core of what you want your brand to be identified with. So for example, Nike. When you think of Nike, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? The swoosh. Did you know that that was like $35 at the early stages? They paid a student to do a logo for them, and she just did that, and they paid her $35. However, along the way, Nike grew into this big brand, and they offered her shares in the company because of how symbolic the symbol became. So the symbol it's not just a swoosh. If you notice in their ads or commercials, anything they put out, the core message is just do it. And just do it, it makes you feel, well, it makes me feel courageous. If you told me I had to come today and talk to a lot of people, maybe I wouldn't do it. But having that sentence at the back of my head, just do it. You know, you might never know, so just do it. So when we talk about the brand, there's two dimensions of the brand. There is the emotional connection that you connect through people with emotions. And then there's the rational side of things. You ever hear them say, a lot of people think with their right side of the brain versus their left side of the brain. So one can be more creative and one can be more business-like. But for some of us, especially in the Caribbean, we tend to use both sides of our brain. So how we interpret brands today, we can have an emotional connection, or, as Mr., what's your name, sir? Ian said, I just like Coach. I just like their designs. I'm not a customer, but I just like how they look. So for him, his connection with Coach would be B, the rational side of things. Why people choose it, it's credibility, right? It's long-lasting. It's differentiation. Consistency. What does Coach bring to you? I'm not a customer either, but it's nice. Think of Hermes. And that's the handbag. I know a lot of ladies want to purchase Hermes. I think Kim Kardashian has like 25 Hermes in her closet. I don't know why, but it's about the craftsmanship. They know and understand the value and time and the heritage that it takes to build this product and bring it to the marketplace. Next slide, please. So now I want to redefine luxury. Because if you notice when I asked Ian, right? I asked him, can you give me examples of Caribbean brands that are luxury-based? And he couldn't. In the space of 5 seconds, he told me, Coach. So let's redefine what luxury means in the Caribbean. We sow with soul. We sow, we plant. And what you're sowing is what you're reaping, meaning whatever you pass on to the next generation becomes a part of their cultural identity. It becomes a part of their core, who they are, what they define themselves as. And with soul, you know, it's a core. So we plant ourselves through culture and our stories. I just put up the paragraph there in case you want to read it, so nobody's on their phone. Young lady at the front. That's okay, that's okay. This picture is actually from a film that we worked on in Jamaica. It's called Threads of Us. And I use this picture because it kind of spoke to me and my grandmother. My grandma passed, bless her soul, rest in peace. She passed on a lot of traditions to me and my younger cousins. But in this particular picture, it spoke a little cultural pride to me with the flag and the grandmother showing, her granddaughter the threads of us. Because in the Caribbean, we're not just one country or a nation. We are threads of all of us. We're connecting on different levels, whether music, fashion, design, anything. And that's the threads of us. Next slide, please. So what is luxury? And I know if I ask anyone in the audience, what is luxury, you're going to tell me something that is highly priced. Or, no? All right, Robert, what's luxury? Quality, okay.
I'd say
Choice? Okay. You? Essence. I like that you use that word, essence. I like that you use that word. Perception is a good one. Perception is a very good one. To sleep? It's actually a luxury. It's just a different type of luxury. That one is called holistic luxury. Yeah, because she puts her self-care and her well-being above what we would pay for in, like, say, a bag or a car. That's considered luxury. So that's holistic luxury, which is good. So just as the soul of a brand, luxury has two dimensions. One that is also an emotional experience, that it creates desire and aspiration and belonging. Because why do people come to Jamaica? Or come to Barbados, the beaches, the hotels? Why is it luxury to them? The experience, They want to come and feel like, oh, I can go, can I order this? Can I order ackee? Can I order a dish that we see every day and eat every day? It's a luxury to them. Yeah. Just the other day, I just know that in Japan, ashi is considered a gourmet dish because it's not grown over there. They don't have access to it. So once you go to a restaurant and they serve you that, it's considered luxury. And then you have the rational side of luxury, the rare materials, the craftsmanship that's, builds to the exclusivity. I put some examples there so you can connect the definition with the word. So think of Rolex. Why do people buy the watch? Not just to tell time. I see a lot of rich people buy like 5 Rolex. I'm like, do you need that much time? What are you looking at? It's gonna if you look on your phone, it's gonna tell the same time, right? If you ask somebody, give me the time, it's the same time. So why invest so much money in this product? It's because of the craftsmanship. And it's because of status. Because if I am in a room and I have on 2 Rolex left, right, because I want to tell the time, because I'm rich, what would you think? Oh, she got money. Perception. Exactly. Oh, yeah, Katie said perception. So it's also status as well. Next slide, please. All right, culture. Heritage as culture. Okay. So if you notice, I have a picture of some lovely ladies in the cane fields. And you might be wondering, why does she have a picture of that and talking about luxury? But a quick story. So my grandmother, when she was alive and strong and fit to work, she used to work in cane fields at Moneymus in Clarendon. And what she would do is plant them, use the manure. So that was her job. And when she came home, she would take what she made, the sugar, and she would make like the coconut drops and the grater cake, all those lovely treats. And what she usually do is, so she can provide for her children, she packaged them and she sold it in the community. Everybody started calling her Sister Amy. So when I heard Tanty at the table, it made me like, oh, that's my grandma. She is a Tanty. Because when you talk about Sister Amy, everybody from everywhere is going to come and get her food. And the first thing they're going to ask for, Sister Amy, can I get a little grater cake? Or they say, oh, no more blue jars left around there, so. So entrepreneurship, which my grandmother never knew that she was doing, she didn't know that she was building her brand, which if she was doing it now, I would have called it Sister Amy. You know how much I would have priced it for? Guess. 150 US. Why? Because my grandmother has to work so hard in the cane field in the hot sun, doing everything by hand to create this product. Organically, there's no added chemicals, there's nothing. It's pure sugar from the source. And I would back it up with some bad design. Very bad design. And colors. So when you speak about branding, it entails everything, how you make the customer feel, what colors you're using, what typography you're using, what's your demographic, what audience do you want to catch. So by the time I don't list out everything, that 150 US is very reasonable. Right, so heritage as luxury, the kids nowadays, they don't believe in history. But that's not for me. History tells you who you are, whether you're creative or not creative. It tells you who you are. It's your identity. This is a part of Jamaica's history, whether some people like it or not, it's heritage. And it's from that picture comes what we have now, like brands like Appleton Estate, rum. When the tourists come to Jamaica, what's the first thing they're going to buy to carry up? Rum, right? Rum. But I want to ask a question. Everybody in here is for Barbados? No? What country are you from? Trinidad? What is your heritage product that you'd say is luxury? Cocoa chocolate. Okay. So that would be Blue Mountain for us. Blue Mountain coffee. Okay, nice. Who was the other person who's not from Barbados? Okay, what's your name? Selassie?
Mine's also cocoa.
That's beautiful.
Ours is also chocolate, and I actually started a chocolate brand in Ghana because
Nice. What's the brand name in Ghana?
Midunu chocolates.
Midunu. What's the story behind that?
It means it's an Ega. It means come, let's eat. It's like a
I love that. I love that. How's your packaging? Okay, describe it in 5 words.
So it's a luxury brand because once you export it, but I also think for me it's a luxury product because we need to tell a different story.
Yeah.
The story has been cocoa from Ghana is mass market, it's a commodity. For me, cocoa from Ghana is all handcrafted.
Mm-hmm.
We cut the trees, we cut the pods down by hand.
Mm-hmm.
We open every single pod by hand. We sun dry them
Oh,
by
wow.
hand. It's all cocoa farmers that are having less than 1 acre. So everything that is handcrafted is couture. So
Nice.
anything with our chocolate.
That is very lovely. Do you export in the Caribbean as well? Not yet. Okay, well, I'm here. I have some connections. All right, next slide, please. All right, sustainability. Eco-craftsmanship as luxury. So one of the stories my grandmother told me, well, my mom, all right, so this is the start. I told my mom I'm coming to Barbados on a panel, right? And I said, Mommy, can you tell me some stuff that I can use in my presentation? She called everybody. And by 5:30, everybody was telling me story. But one particular one that, drawed my attention was, she said they used to use a tin milk cans to make heels. And they would just walk around with these tin cans. So I looked at her, I'm like, how would I manage to do that? So then she started getting a character now. Yeah, you push a big toe through the little wall, so. And then you step on your heel, like, you walk. Someone said, all right, I'm going to go buy 1 tin of milk up, that's how you show me. But that story it drawn my attention because you're telling me this, but you don't know that I can go into production, get a lot of tin milks that we can, recycle and stuff, and actually make shoes. Or we'll get the plastics, like what my teammate says, and create these products. And why would it be luxury? It would be luxury because we're trying to find a way to leave less carbon footprints on the earth. And instead of waste that we have a big issue with, turn that waste into something that can sell. The man upstairs, wherever he is, he's not going to know that it's plastic we use. By the time we package that, it's a beautiful product. So that's where sustainability comes in. It's using, and let me tell you, this generation is very big on, where is your product made? How did you make your product? Am I contributing to eco-consciousness? They're very big on that. So when it comes to luxury branding, if you notice, a lot of these brands are trying to put into their marketing plan, they call it green marketing. You know what I'm talking, right? Selassie, yeah. They call it green marketing. So they're trying to use that now to reach this particular audience and demographic because they're so caught up on this big word of sustainability. And going back to the sugar canes now, you can also use those, whether you use bamboo, it depends on how you design it, to create bags, just like that. And by the time you put them in certain areas where you know the tourists going to them, you do your little markup price. But the beauty behind that and making it luxurious is the materials and how you do it and how you process and design everything. Did everybody read that little paragraph? No? You want a little 5 minutes to read a paragraph? Oh, they're reading. Do anyone own like bamboo bags? No? Nobody owns bamboo, nothing? Okay, guys, we need to visit the craft market. I'm sure there's an exhibition at CARIFEST. All right, next slide. Caribbean creativity, artistry as luxury. All right, there was a next story that stood out to me when my mother told me. All right, so my grandmother's mother is from Cuba. Yeah, she moved to Jamaica because she fell in love with a Jamaican man. And what she used to do is, there's this game that they made up called Moonshine Darling, but that's also something that Louise Bennett, okay, Katie will demonstrate with that. But that's also something that Louise Bennett, one of her poems, had that. And what they did in the night, because there wasn't much entertainment back in those days, right? So they each laid on the floor, on the ground outside, that we don't do nowadays, in a little circle. And what they would do is break plates and mash it around the person. And then when the person gets up, they glue the plates together. They just look like a little human plate. And that to them was art. So I said to Mommy, do you know that people are breaking glasses to create like art like this? But it's in the image of somebody. And I said, there are places that are doing this and putting in museums with the same art that you thought was a kid's game, and they're selling it at a high price because it's a luxury product. And if you ask them, they'll tell you, oh, this glass is made from such and such from Italy, from such and such from da-da-da. So when I got to this point, I'm saying there's a lot of stuff from the Caribbean that we're not exercising more when it comes to art and creativity, to be used as, luxury products and really use our culture as the blueprint for these luxury products. So this was a point that so if you notice through the presentation, I kind of pinpointed luxury into 3 categories. So you have culture. So you're seeing luxury through the eyes of culture, sustainability, and Caribbean creativity. Everybody with me so far? Okay, next slide. All right, guess who's coming to dinner? So that's my grandmother's name, Mama Amy Charlton. Before we go to the next slide, if we were to build her as a luxury brand, right? So I'm going to call participants now. Ethan and Ian, sorry. Mariel? Oh, you're Mariel. Hello. And Selassie, and Robert, and what's my friend right here? Sorry? Sandra? Sandra. All right, Sandra. So we're going to be building Tanty as a luxury brand. Let me see if you guys are paying attention. Hold on. No worries, no answer is incorrect. All right. Brand essence, the core. So what do you think Mama Amy's identity is? What does she embody? Robert? Hard work. Okay. Marielle? Her? Yes. So?
I would go back to craftsmanship.
Craftsmanship. Great. Sandra? Strength. Why do you say strength? You see a strong woman. Nice. And Ian?
Say wisdom or just dignity?
I love that. Wisdom. Nice. So I had wisdom. So you get a mark. Okay, well, I was going to. You're listening. All right. And I also had worth and authority. Rooted in Caribbean culture. So you got a point. Well, everybody gets a point. What do you think her promise is, Sandra? Yeah, that's good. Ian?
Love.
Love. Okay. Mariel? Oh yeah, she will. Celeste? I like that. All right. So I had to carry forward heritage. So Celeste gets a point. Everybody gets a point. And I also had resilience and love. Who said love? All right, y'all listening? Yeah, listen. And love as a timeless luxury, right? All right, so tagline. So tagline. Everybody know what a tagline is, right? What's your favorite tagline? Yeah. Mine is just do it. What's yours? What's your favorite brand? You don't have one? What's your? Keep walking. That sounds like Johnny Walker. Yeah. Celeste, what about you? Celeste there. You don't have one? What's your tagline?
Celebrating African culinary heritage.
Okay, so that's your favorite tagline. That's what you should leave it. Sandra? Keep walking? Nice. Robert? No, you can't do that. Me have that. Love that. That. All right, you get 5 points. All right. I'm going to go to one more, and then we can move on. Visual language. What do you think her head wrap represents, Mario? Poise. So you think that's like her brand signature? Dignity. She's very sure. Ian?
I would definitely say authority.
Authority. Okay, love that. Consistency. Why? You think she made that herself?
No, I mean, when I see it, I don't know what. I expect that when I eat her food today,
Yeah. It's the same thing. Right. Nice. I love that. All right. What about her dress? What do you think her dress represents, Selassie? I like it though. Ian? Okay. How about the Caribbean textures? How wanna go at it? What about the flowers? Yeah. Yeah, what about the color? Yeah, what does red represent for you? Love. What about you? What about, oh, who's the lovely lady beside Ian? Adrian? Andrea. Okay, great. What does red represent for you? Passion. Yes, you're right on the mark for that. Oh, because I'm thinking literally red plastic bag. What does she perform? It's a he. Cali who? Oh, Calypsonian. Okay. I was about to ask you to spell it for me. Oh. What about her jewelry? She wears gold. Yeah, you can't really see it, but it's not camouflage glow. It's a real gold. What do you think about that? Why add gold? Why add gold and not silver? Why do you wear gold jewelry? It does, and you're very beautiful. Do you think it makes her look richer and not silver? Yeah. She's a showgirl. I like that. Okay. All right, Mama Amy feel nice. All right.
I think there's an element of reclamation too,
Yeah.
because wearing gold is not something that you are taught to do as a Caribbean person. You're supposed to be humble,
Yeah.
you know, and gold is what got us here in the first place.
What do you think the link to gold is for Africa?
That's a different panel.
Give us a little 2-sentence.
Different panel. But I mean, yeah, like I said, reclamation, that's why I wear gold. Like I'm wearing gold and silver right now. You know, even this is a fork that I bought in Cuba that is made into a bangle and a spoon. You know, so you're talking about heritage and luxury and that kind of thing. And yeah, I think there's reclamation in that too.
I love that. Next slide. So we're gonna see the answers. Yeah, I'm going. All right, in the interest of time, I'm just gonna, you guys just skim through that. But those would be the 4 pillars of building a brand. So you have your brand essence, you have emotional connection, you have visual language, you also have the rational value, which is the craft. Next slide. All right, so in the interest of time, I'll just list the potential policy recommendations. You can have a regional creative sustainability network. I'm trying to build that, so I'll take everybody contacts in this room. And you have cultural heritage incentives, green creative policy as well. Next slide, please. And these are some industry recommendations: authenticity and luxury, creative entrepreneurship hubs, and global partnership. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, let's build together, and I'll be contacting contacts right after. Thank you guys for your time.
Beautiful. All right, at this time, we're going to watch the trailer for Threads of Us. 8 production companies came together back in May of this year. We started to have the conversation in April, got together, wrote a script, went to production for 9 days, created a film model, which we will be presenting to our government really soon. And so we want to show you the first cut trailer from this project we shot back in May 2025. All right, go ahead.
Been sitting in here waiting for one person to remind me I'm more than this place.
Sometimes we move forward by turning back.
Daniel.
Mom.
Patch it when it's tear, wave it when it's strong.
Yo, me I go run this place, yeah.
You ever think about what this place could be if it wasn't just for other people's uniforms?
She go like dream scan now.
Daniel, the rent, Joanna.
I would like to report a matter of national security. Everybody back to work. This is not a party shop.
Remember say I look at the poor T-boy, you know. Don't forget that.
These are incredible.
What am I doing wrong?
Here. I'm not going anywhere.
I imagine that part of us could clothe the nation.
All right. All right. So that was to kick off my segment here. You know, I think what we wanted to do was tell the world a culturally nuanced story. Because a lot of filmmakers will give you, listen, in the first 10 minutes, I need that inciting incident. If I don't know where that movie is going, I am going to get up and I am not watching. And what we want to do is be able to include our cultural elements. We want to take control of our narratives, right? So what if culture can be preserved through film? They'll never really get it until we give them the setup, right? If we continue to whitewash our films, we won't be able to tell our true cultural narrative so that someone can understand what the slang means when you say it, right? Other countries have been able to do this so successfully, and so we have to also adapt to that narrative so that we can show up on the global stage and we know, man, I just love Bajan films. I love the Trini films that are coming out. I love the Jamaican films that are coming out. And how they'll identify those is by the certain nuances that happen in your culture. We're able to include it in the dialogue and also show the scenes, right? So what if we kept the storytelling elements from our Tanty, right? Vivid imagery, layered characters, culturally immersive story setup. What would that look like for us, right? So film preserves culture in multiple ways. Go ahead and cue up the number 5 slide for us. So it captures our traditional customs. Film records rituals, languages, clothing, ceremonies, music, everyday way of life that might otherwise fade with time, right? This helps future generations to understand how people lived, how they thought, and expressed themselves. So a good example would be like The Harder They Come and Dancehall Queen, right? Now, let me ask you guys, what is a Caribbean film that left the biggest impression on you? Dancehall Queen. What you say? Black Orpheus. Okay. Anyone else? No, nothing else. All right. Gonna get some more examples. Shutters. All right. So, oh, okay, documentary of Frantz Fanon. See, so we have a few that left a good impression. And when you think back to it, what was it about those films that left the impression? Because I can tell you this, my first intersection with film and culture started with Dancehall Queen. It was a film I watched back in, I want to say 97, 98. Chevelle Franklin, her parents lived in my area, and I remember I was going to high school with her younger brother. And when we heard the music, it was the soundtrack. She sang on the Dancehall Queen soundtrack. Yep, that exact song you're getting right now. And once I heard it, I said, I have to watch this movie. But you know, sometimes you're from a conservative background, and not all film can show. And with T-House, and we go and watch the movie. And when we see it, I was like, I need to tell stories. Like, it was my first intersection of a very cultural narrative that related to something I could walk down the street and see, that I wasn't getting from a film that was coming from Hollywood, yes? So that was my first intersection. And I'm sure for you, what left the biggest impression on you was the little nuances that you were able to identify. And you were like, true. It's really so it go, right? All right, so another way in which we can preserve culture through film, it documents historical realities, right? Films can serve as historical records, showing how people responded to war, colonization, migration, civil rights struggles, or economic change. These portrayals become references for researchers, educators, and communities. But we have to do the development process where we're going to our older generations and getting those stories. And we don't want them to leave this world, we don't get those stories to put it in film. Film is one of the best ways to present something for it to resonate in your mind. It's visible. As soon as you see it, your brain starts going. Almost like music, when you hear the repetition of music, something happens to us inside, right? And before you know it, you're singing along. You're thinking about your favorite song right now, you hear on the radio, and the one that just keep playing in your head, right? But a good example of a film that gives you historical reality is Selma, which chronicles key moments in the U.S. civil rights movement, right? So we need some more films that can be period pieces, give us a lot of inference from those times, because the younger generation, they need that information, right? We can also preserve language and dialect through film. Many films are made in local dialects or endangered languages, preserving linguistic patterns and oral storytelling traditions, right? An example would be Anikulapo, which showcased Yoruba dialect and culture. You can watch that on Netflix, right? So they have subtitles for you to read along. But what we're saying is if you include those nuances, people will follow. Whether you put a subtitle or you give the setup within the story, it is very important that you create the narrative so that people can understand it. Because when we go to film distributors in this day and age, they always tell you, well, we don't know what category to put the film in. What's the analytics behind, what's showing in your area today? How much viewership? There's not much we can present because there's nothing that's really culturally nuanced happening today that you can present as an example. So we have to warm up the audience to what we are getting ready to show so that it becomes the narrative, right? Another way is film expresses cultural identity. Filmmakers often use storytelling, symbolism, and visual styles unique to their culture, affirming identity and resisting cultural erasure or stereotypes. Example, Nollywood films, right? I co-produce in Nigeria today. I did 5 films this year, right, with a Nollywood producer. And they are very big on including cultural nuances into the storyline, so much to the point that we understand that, oh, it's a Nollywood film. It's not going to go the regular standard. We can take these risks versus if it was another project, right? So a good example right now that is on Netflix is to Kill a Monkey, which is by Kemi Adetiba, and the characters are so layered and includes so much of like the inner city language, like how they talk, you know, like a gangster from a certain ghetto there. Everyone that was watching it was like, oh, she got the characters right. That is how we probably want, that's the space we want to move towards, to get cultural nuances into our films so that people can start to identify them and know that, oh yeah, that's Jamaican culture. So let me explain that to you now. Because when I'm watching a Nollywood movie with somebody and they're not too familiar with Nollywood, I can be like, oh, so in their culture, the mother always wanted the kids to marry early, you know? And so I'm starting, but how did I get that? I got that because so many storylines started to present what is a common narrative in that culture. And so that would be the same for us. So other ways is it bridges generational gaps and offers a platform for marginalized voices. So concepts that are not, you know, things that are super sensitive, that, you know, women's health, that affect Caribbean nationals, right? You can present that in a film and it come across better than you have a discussion, because a lot of times people don't want to openly have the discourse, but maybe you have a film that shows that. Caribbean is dealing with a lot of things like domestic violence. And so films are a good way for us to say, okay, this is what certain families are going through. Here are some resolutions and options, you know. Also, therapy is a big thing culturally that we don't generally want to attend. Because they feel like, after I'm in a fool and I don't belong in the nut house, so why I going to go and tell somebody my business, right? But film could actually help to break down those barriers to say, it don't mean you're fool. Sometimes you just need to take some time to work through some things that's going on up there in your head, right? And also, you know, just kind of take away some of the stigmas that surround certain conditions, just to give people a little bit more information on what access exists. And this is a way in which we can use film in our stories. And the idea is for us to globalize local stories. We want to see the person who became an orphan, the church take them in, and they became a doctor. You know, we want to see the roots stories. You know, different scenarios, could be 1 or 2 locations, just 3 or 4 main characters, and come together and you do a film that is so culturally nuanced that you're like, man, I understand, I get it, you know? Because we also want to see ourselves on the global stage. All right, so what are some of the barriers? Filmmakers have a major difficulty in accessing funding, right? And the other thing is distribution is often difficult, expensive, and complex. So we talked about it before. You know, when I go to these distribution and sales conferences and you have something you're trying to sell, the main thing you hear is, so what else is in the region? You know, what's a comparison of your film? You know, what we're going to pull on? Dancehall Queen from back in the day, Harder Day Come, 70s. You know, we need some living, breathing references from today. You know, things that can get us into places, and that's some of the complexity with why Caribbean creatives aren't getting their films sold, aren't getting notoriety on some of these platforms, because there's not really a category, there's not enough content coming out of the region to fill those avenues, right? Because it's a business, they still have to make money. So what are some potential resolutions? So consistent funding sources with achievable requirements. So from time to time, there are funds that do become available, but some of the issues are, can the filmmakers meet the criteria? You know, because typically if you're in the islands, you're not going to shoot with $500,000 US. You know, let's be for real, right? Where are you going to get it from? Because you're already struggling with funding. So we need to make sure that the criteria is achievable for the level that you are at, right? And then we also may want to consider a solid film distribution vendor for Caribbean filmmakers. At some point, we have to just realize what the market is. We have to believe in what we are selling and sell it to the world. Because, listen, if they won't put out a chair for us at that table, let's create the table and sit at, and then we invite them to eat, right? So I think something we should all look into is a solid film distribution vendor for Caribbean filmmakers, because there are many Caribbean filmmakers coming out with short films, features, but we never see them. They go on the shelf because they cannot make it through the sales markets, right? So that's just a few things I wanted to bring to your attention. And that brings me to the end of my presentation for, you know, what if we can preserve a culture through film. And then at the end of my presentation, I had, you know, you can visit, for more information on the film Threads of Us, you can go to www.threadsofusfilm.com. We're still in post-production, but if you are interested in seeing it in Barbados, you come talk to me. We'll set up something here for a screening, okay? All right, so for the final piece of this panel, we want to go ahead and show a trailer for Rasta Soul's Journey, or 50 Days in Africa.
Let me see, this, you hearing me well? Yeah. Okay, all right. Greetings everybody, give thanks. Give thanks to my sisters who are on the panel here having this important conversation and for staying with us. I can use your mic, Katie? This one sound better or it sound the same? This one sound a little better. All right, so a big conversation we find ourselves to be a part of. Once upon a time, you know, there were Tantys who we went to, but now we are becoming the Tantys at the table. And so that is the lens through which I will speak a little bit about this evening. I will be showing first a 3-minute preview of a documentary journey I did 12 years ago in 2012. What year is this? 2025? Whew, 13 years ago. It was Jamaica's 50th year of independence, and all of our leaders decided to go to England to celebrate and to watch, you know, Usain Bolt run. It was the Olympics, which is great. But as a filmmaker, I found myself under-inspired, underappreciated, and just in a rebellious mood. And so I worked together with some friends, and we decided to make ourselves ambassadors and make the journey in Jamaica's 50th year of independence to go across the continent to 6 countries, to meet artists, creatives, and government officials on the ground, to have conversations about the economic potentials of collaborations across the waters. And I'll be sharing some of the lessons that we learned, which are now being put in practice with this film Katie spoke about, that I wrote and I produced, called Threads of Us. But first, let's go back about 13 years ago, when we first made the journey to Africa, across 6 countries, to meet with some artists and government officials on the ground. Run the track, my selector.
So we're getting ready to go to Africa. Are you ready?
Are we gonna make money? Like, literally go to rich people and be like, yo, it's the heritage.
Baba, tell me a story.
Okay, Naya, what story do you want to hear?
Tell me about the time you went to Africa.
We wanted to come to learn about telling African stories because we are Africans just living
a few 100,000 miles away.
Most young Jamaicans that I am around sing about Africa and dream about Africa. But unfortunately, the Africa that the majority of Jamaica knows and the majority of the diaspora knows is not what we know.
Border check, everything to go.
Tired of the borders. We just want to be free.
It would be great to shoot both locations. It would be really, really good.
That's cool. So you just kind of do the sketch and then you'll do the one.
Yeah.
Nice. I've given up trying to go back to the States. Yeah, it's Africa's calling me, so I'm here.
This is why Grandma said Africa. That's a London and
hey.
This put me in the place where
that you should be. Your grandma put me up and I know woolly pa bride me not turn down and woolly pa beat up me not turn down. But me have job with me.
Where's the transport?
Oh, we just take the bus come up there.
Bus.
What kind of music you normally play?
Reggae.
You normally play reggae? You don't play Ethiopian music?
The day we start having our children visit and taste Africa as something that is not in this black box somewhere over there that is unreachable, I think that we're going to start a new cycle of recreating Africa and reliving this dream of ours.
We were evicted from our previous living arrangement by the sea.
Good night, everybody.
Oh gosh, okay. It's not just, oh, I see this girl and I like her, but I see this girl and I like her because she comes from a different country, and that's interesting to me. South Africa, man, music industry has gotten to the point where like can't make any money out of it. So now they're using images. That's crazy if you think about it. Almost like a media revolution. Like you can't do sound without images anymore. What's scary to me is that after I talk to the camera and I give you the truth, you can take it and make it whatever you want. Can we turn off the camera, please? Just for now.
Is it okay if we get an interview with you?
All of you come back. Was that what Marcus Garvey's dream was? Come back. But what is this? I met a Jamaican saying, you sold me as slaves. And I said, shut your mouth. If you don't know your history, don't talk to somebody like me. I sold you. Do you know my name? My name is Femi Anikula Pupuchi. And if you want to look for who sold you, we can trace the Africans that participated in the slave trade. Many of them are our rulers today.
You reach the border? Yes. So I should turn off the camera?
Yeah, totally so.
We travel this journey so you know that it's possible and you can do it too.
I want to go to Africa.
This documentary, 13 years later, and we're still trying to find a place for it to live. We're still trying to find support to get it finished and distribution. After we found our way as three creatives all the way across the world to the continent to do work that our government should be doing. Because we are tired of waiting. And we refuse to take orders and directives and vision from individuals who are not practicing artists. It doesn't make sense. Then we'll just sit and be waiting. And so this is an example of what creatives are doing and have been doing for over a decade in trying to move our industry forward and create space for collaboration. So today I'll be talking a little bit about Tanty at the table, us being Tanties at the table, and what role we must now take in positioning our experience and our grassroots knowledge in helping to inform and guide our elected leaders in the ways that will really build a sustainable industry. You can pull up my presentation for me. Culture, policy, legacy. This film that Katie spoke about, Threads of Us, it was written in a month. I wrote this movie in a month out of a rebellion against the idea that Jamaicans are not making movies. The last time that we had a feature-length film out of Jamaica was over a decade ago. Now, our government, give thanks, recently put out a $1 billion initiative to create films 2 years ago. Many of us applied, and we're still waiting 2 years. But we couldn't wait anymore. In getting ready to do this film, one of the things that we realized is that we're gonna have to build a whole ecosystem, because it's not that we're not telling stories, you know. Here's what happens. We spend our money, our passion and everything, create a story, and then we're told, take it to film festivals in America. And so you save up your money, and you send it to all of these film festivals in America, and then you wait for months, and then they might come back with a yes. More times, it's a no. But if they come back with a yes, then you save up some more money again, and then you fly into America to be one little line item of programming. Your film doesn't get bought. You have to pay for accommodations, food, transportation, and then you go back home. They have a press release, but you have a film that's now on a hard drive here, and then you have to go back to your 9 to 5. You are a storyteller. Why are you working a 9 to 5? Your culture needs you to be a storyteller. Why are you in this position? But there is nothing to support the development of storytellers to play their role in nation building. The griot is a heart of the community who helps to carry traditions from generation to generation. Where are our griots? How are we supporting them? Culture is the most underfunded industry of them all, the most underfunded ministry, and that's because that is from a colonial framework. Naturally, we're going to put the least money in culture. You don't want people to know who they are and where they've been and what they can do. You don't want them to be able to build it from the grassroots up, so you give them the least support. And then you undermine them. If we are going to do this thing, this film industry thing, we're going to have to do it from the grassroots up. There is nobody in the government across the region, and I have not done my research, but I'm pretty sure I can say this. There are no practicing filmmakers in any of these governments who are making decisions about film. How are you going to understand the nuances of what it takes if you've never practiced the art? I don't want anybody to call me a creative. I am a creator. I am not a part of a creative industry. I am a part of the film industry. We have to decolonize the language that we use and be a lot more specific so we can get results. I'll speak specifically about my experience in Jamaica. I'm very cold right now, so I'm shivering a little bit. There's a monopoly on all of the screens in Jamaica, which means that there's one man who owns all of the theaters in Jamaica. He doesn't like Jamaican movies. So what does that mean? He has they just don't get played. And he also has no responsibility to play them because it's a private business and there are no policies or mandates to make sure that he plays them. So what happens? You just don't have a film industry. That's what happens. What also happens is that there is a crime against the humanity of a people that is happening when they do not have access to their culture in the mainstream. But we don't readily identify that as an issue because we're so busy concentrating on how much money the film industry can make, not really realizing the role that film is to play in nation building, in cultural preservation, in liberation. Okay, we're not going to go so far. But it's important for us to set the foundation for this conversation. Because people think culture is just a thing about clothes and what you eat and how you talk, and it is a foundation of every industry. Because people need a way of life. And people form industries. Therefore, culture is supposed to be the most supported industry of them all. All right. Let's move into the presentation. I'm going to speak about a few guiding principles that can help us with the film industry. Is anybody here familiar with a screen quota? No. So basically, a screen quota is a mandate that is passed by governments internationally. It's very standard, where you have to show X amount of percentage of local content. It starts here. How do we implement screen quotas across the Caribbean that can encourage more national content on our platforms? Okay, I'll just go through this quickly. A screen quota ensures consistent visibility for our stories, culture, language, and values in a national narrative. This way, Caribbean and diaspora audiences can and will see themselves reflected on screens, fostering integrity, fostering a love for who they are. Next slide, please. Industry growth and job creation. Screen quotas will create more jobs because now theaters will have to, and not just theaters, television stations as well, will have to show more national content. That means that more budgets will have to be prepared for that. It strengthens a value chain that includes cinematographers, editors, designers, colorists, sound. And it encourages now predictable demand from cinemas, which encourages investors to come on because corporate people don't understand film. Who in here is a filmmaker? Okay. Who in here loves movies? Would you go to the theater to watch a local film? Would you pay the same rate that you would pay for a Hollywood movie? Would you go to the theater to watch a short film? If it was combined, if it was curated as a collection. Right now, Caribbean filmmakers are not able to make feature-length films because we don't have the money. We're able to make shorts. We need our audiences to meet us where we are. We're developing. So how do we get audiences to meet us where we are and help us to grow together? This film that we're doing, Threads of Us, is an example of that. This movie was written in a month. It was shot in 9 days, an independent feature-length film, which they've told us, oh, that's impossible. And then we did it. We raised almost $200,000 US in a few months. They told us to wait for 2 years and to go apply for the fund. No, but we did it. So now we're here in Barbados talking about it after having meetings with our government to show them recommendations, which we will share here as well. But now we're realizing that this conversation is not just Jamaican. What we are potentially looking at is uncovering a model and methodology that can impact the region if we are clear about how this ecosystem can and needs to be built. More films on screen means more production opportunities, more steady employment for all kinds of creators and technical staff. Moving forward. Economic impact and investment. Now, we're not looking for sponsors as filmmakers. Somebody told me that the other day. Stop saying that you're looking for sponsorship. What you're looking for is investment. Because what we are positioning is a serious ROI in a proper turnaround. Okay. I'll show you how. Screen quotas help to protect local industries from market domination by Hollywood and foreign content. If the government says, all right, well, there's a 10% screen quota on, that means that filmmakers have a space to go and see their work on screen. That means that even if they can't find the money from anybody else, they're going to invest in themselves and professionally develop themselves. Job creation now becomes something sustainable because it is discovered from the inside out. With guaranteed access to screens, filmmakers can better project revenue and attract investment. If nobody not seeing you moving, ain't nobody gonna know that you have a movie. Ain't nobody gonna know that you can do something. But you have to start somewhere. Jamaican films circulated on local screens more frequently could triple box office revenues from local films within 5 years. Now listen, you see how many movies Nigerians are making per month? I didn't say per year, I said per month. Okay, Katie just said she did how many movies this year? 5. What month is this? August. It's the 8th month of the year. How? There are models that are in practice internationally that we're just not looking at because we're so focused on North America. Like them say, well, you can't make a movie unless you have $2 million. What are you talking about? Like, that's, well, I guess, if you want to go Tyler Perry. But look at what Tyler Perry is doing, though. Look at what Tyler Perry has done. He's created a whole niche for himself. He don't need no other market share. Models that are in practice internationally that we can look at and see how we can evolve from. Okay. Diaspora activation. This is exactly what happened with our film. None of the money that we raised was raised in Jamaica. Not true. A little bit. A little bit. The majority of the money that we raised was from diaspora activation. Because it's like when you're here in the island, maybe if you have the same experience here in Barbados, it's like people don't believe until it go foreign and bust. And when it go foreign now, everybody's like, oh yeah, well, I know long time, eh? I see them long time. True. But we have to reach out to our diaspora to help us to remember who we are. And it's the same thing that we have done for Africa. When Africans come over and they go up into places like the Maroon country, they hear languages that they haven't heard for a long time that came from their own home. Cultural preservation through storytelling. The role of the griot is to preserve. Film is a tool that we have now to be able to do that. When we went to Africa to do that documentary, they said to us, where are your movies? This is 13 years ago. Your music is everywhere, but where are your movies now? You guys, aren't you storytellers? And it's just like, yes. We're doing some cool music videos though. You like those? You know? But it's like, how much more can we wait for governments to figure it out? For grant bodies to figure it out? I don't know that we can wait much longer. I think we're just gonna have to model it from the grassroots up to show them how. I just know that is just gonna have to be how it is. They're not going to believe until they see it. Remember, their parents did not want them to be artists. None of our parents did. So now that we're in the space where we're realizing the value of our art and culture, we have to lead. Jamaica, our country, is 63 years old. My mother is 61. And when I look at that, I see how young my nation is and how much more room there is for her to grow and guidance that needs to happen and allowing the space for her to do away with the things that no longer serve her and embrace the things that she thinks that she might be too afraid to do. We have to be those ones, her children. And it's the same thing I'm saying here to my other island brothers and sisters. We elect our governments because they're in positions to be elected. Elect yourself to do more work and create the models, manifest your visions, bring it to life. We don't know if the government is going to take us seriously, but we're taking ourselves seriously. We're here at CARIFEST in this moment to have a regional conversation about something that needs to be heard. Moving forward, please. So decentralization and inclusion. By creating a screen quota, a call for screen quota, it opens space for rural and grassroots talent to reach national and global audiences. If there is no screen quota, nobody not going to see our movies. Let's just understand that. Nobody is doing it by will to be like, hey, so Barbados cinema, how many Bajan movies have you shown ever? Hey, Jamaican cinemas, so how many Jamaican movies are you showing this year? It's like it's not a thing that we're thinking about at all because we've always left film in the realm of entertainment, not realizing that we need to see ourselves and hear our stories. Incentivizing local cinemas to screen diverse stories across all parishes and not just urban centers. Just like I was saying, we can't produce feature-length films right now. It's shorts. Will the audience meet us where we are? How do we get that to happen? How do we re-identify what storytelling is supposed to be when we have things like TikTok? You know what I'm saying? Or how do we use things like TikTok to help us to tell our stories? Because that's what's happening now. Everybody's a content creator now, right? These things are important for us to observe these platforms and see how it is that we can utilize them today. Moving forward, please. Okay, so moving into some solutions. This is suggested screen quota policy for Jamaica, which can be applied regionally. We're calling for a minimum of local content on screens. 10 to 15% of all screenings must be national films, rising to 20% in the next 3 years. How do we do that? Are we making enough movies? We'll get to that in a second. This is just me being brave, right? 40% of all cinema slots must go to national films during emancipation season. That's August for all of us in the Caribbean, the most of us in the Caribbean, is it not? Independence, emancipation. What if we were supposed to take up that whole time with just our movies? All over the world, though. Not just in our islands, because we are global. With our movie, our aim was to release it on 63 screens around the world for Jamaica's 63rd Independence Day. That's the kind of impact that we're talking about when we talk about unity and bringing our stories to the people who need to see them. That's our children who are in North America who have no access to themselves and their identity. That's the role of a film, not just for entertainment. It's to inspire a young person to be like, oh yeah. We are going to need a monitoring body, like a National Film Commission in partnership with an independent film quota council. So you have the national, like that would be the National Cultural Foundation here, I think it is, which is at the Ministry of Culture. Okay. With an independent body of artists and filmmakers that can help to make sure that we hold the government accountable to what they say they're going to do and not create their own commission. I hope you don't think that this is rebellious speaking. I'm trying to lead a revolution, because I am. You know, it's important for us to speak in these terms. We're living in former colonies. Do we remember what happened with the slave masters? And who we call our heroes today and what they had to do? All we're doing is talking strong in terms that need to be spoken. We no longer have to use machetes. Now we have the power of pen and paper and mind and advocacy and models that we can develop from the grassroots up. Next slide, please. So this is some of the policy compliance conversations. We're naturally going to have an incentive for compliance, tax breaks, exhibition grants, and co-marketing from the Ministry of Culture and the Film Commission. If your theater complies well, we're going to give you some money. We're going to give you some marketing. Incentivize you to help to build the industry. Correct? Even if you don't have a theater, you have a space like this, and you're doing film series, we're going to give you some money. We need somebody to be telling us that. Because right now, they're just telling us, here is some money to go and shoot a movie. You'll get it in 2 years from now. But nobody is telling us how we're going to get the movie to the audiences after we shoot the movie. The press releases are just going out to say that we're shooting. There has to be a penalty for non-compliance, fines, and loss of licenses even. We have to go strong. Exemptions are like educational films, specialty cinemas, and festivals. We now pressure them. Move forward, please. So coming to the close, I just wanted to give us an example of a film industry that has a national screen quota and approaches this conversation. The Nigeria Film and Video Censors Board and Nigerian Film Corporation. They've come together and basically created like a cross-ministerial initiative where you get a little bit of money from this ministry and a little bit of money from this ministry and a little bit of money from this ministry and create a pot where now filmmakers can come and get money. So you have the screen quota over here, but then you also have the pot of money where filmmakers can come to make their movies to supply the screen quota. The ecosystem has to build, right? Okay, so this is how it works. The funding source, while less centralized, government and private sector together contribute about $2.5 million annually in grants, tax incentives, and support. $2.5 million US dollars every year from 1% of tax here, 1% here, 1% here. Okay. As you can see, various government bodies, including the Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Trade and Industry, and private sectors, come together to develop Nollywood as one of the largest film industries in the world. Do you know that Nollywood is the second largest film industry in the world? Did you guys know that? Nollywood is the second largest film industry in the world, and the government does not give them any money. They give the government money. They are the second largest economic contributors to the national budget. The film industry. When you go to Nigeria, filmmakers have their studios. Okay, you're driving on a road of studios. You know how they did it? We learned this in 50 Days in Africa. At the point now where the world was transitioning from VHS to DVDs and CDs, the Chinese needed to get rid of a whole bunch of VHS tapes. And so they made a deal with some Nigerians, and when the tapes them come, I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of tapes, the Nigerian man them say, this is not garbage, oh. Say, bruh, come, bring your camera, come, stand there. Okay, action. Okay, stop. Stand there. Okay, action. No editing. Yes, they shot over the VHS tapes. No editing. And when they finish now, them go and then put together them little flyer and they moved across the villages and tell them that we have a movie. And the villagers came out with their chairs and then put up the TV and put in them thing, and everybody put them little 2 pence in the pot. And the storytellers sat back and watched people consuming their story from the grassroots up. Models internationally that we can practice. We don't need to keep looking to North America. It is not sustainable. Those systems were never built for us or in our voice. We have to discover what will work for us from the grassroots up. Why it works? Because the pooling encourages regulation, industry growth, cultural reputation, and export of Nigerian films internationally. So the government know what they're doing. They're allowing the film industry space so that they can invest, and then it comes back in national return. The government is investing in the film industry for a national return because of the potential of film. Ministries involved, as you can say, information and culture, trade and investment, and tourism. This is an example. No, it's okay, we'll come here. I just wanted to quickly show you guys a reference of other countries around the world who have screen quotas, but also have created these kind of cross-ministerial tax funds that have now become national funds for film and media. Canada, every year they redirect $270 million to the film industry. In return, they make $800 million, tens of thousands of jobs, producing 1,000 plus films per year. France, they invest $650 million, redirected taxes, with a return of $9 billion, 120,000 jobs, creating 300 to 400 films per year. The biggest one I want to say is Nigeria. Nigeria puts in $2.5 million and gets back $7.5 billion. Over 1 million jobs, producing over 2,500 films per year. Now, I want to really know what other investment opportunities big like this coming out of the Caribbean right now. Please, please, we have to help our nations understand what we're missing out on by not supporting our storytellers to be storytellers and giving them the infrastructure to do that. Next slide, please. So key takeaways as we get ready to wrap up. 1, a multi-ministry pooling situation is common internationally and aligns cultural goals with economic and social development priorities. It also increases impact and visibility. 2, leveraging tax policies or levies on related sectors like broadcasting, cinema, telecom can create sustainable funding sources. Digicel, Flow, even the billboards. Tax the billboards, Coca-Colas, tourism. All of these spaces are benefiting from our intellectual property as storytellers, our heritage, our culture that is not being put back into being able to tell stories for generational impact. We really have to be granular with how we look at everything, especially as a people who our value comes from our oral storytelling. Our archive is our oral storytelling. 3, combining cultural promotion with tourism, education, and economic ministries strengthens political buy-in and impact. I'm not trying to buy into the politics, but like this is what they need. They need cultural promotion to tie into tourism. We just have to be careful about how we do that, to be very honest with you, or we'll get what happened in Jamaica with Rastafari. When you go to the airport, everything sold in the airport that is red, gold, and green is made in China. That's what happens. So we just have to be very careful. Moving forward, we're going to need to establish formal agencies or funds that act as centralized hubs, coordinating funds and policies across ministries. Meaning that there will have to be a cross-ministerial task force that is created, or maybe it's cross-regional. ministries of culture, ministries of investment from across the region probably should come together to have a conversation about how we're going to attack the Caribbean film industries, because we can support each other. Right now, Barbados have a Afro-Exim head office here, right? Do you guys know this? What are you going to do with it? Nobody have any plans? Come on, guys. Now is the time for us to be thinking bigger and greater and larger and stop waiting on our elected leaders to do so. You don't need to have a midlife crisis to remember that you're an artist at heart. Okay? Leave that 9 to 5. Okay, I'm not trying to, you know, but I said what I said. Number 5, even modest redirected taxes, 1% of our relevant sector can help. Just don't tell us no. Number 6, redirected funds enable production growth, job creation, and cultural export opportunities, which we easily spoke about. Moving forward. So, these are Tanty's call to action. Us now, as the Tanties at the table. I mean, even the men in the room. You're the unkies at the table, I think. Is that a thing? Unkies, uncles, unks? You get it. You get it. We know. Our call to action is to establish a regional cross-ministerial development task force to foster coordinated government support for the sustainable growth of the Caribbean film industries. Iron sharpen iron. We don't need to be doing it individually. It's not a competition thing. Barbados has how many people on this island? 250,000, under 300,000. You know what I'm saying? Jamaica has like 1.5 or 2 million, whatever it is. We are not each other's competition. We need to iron sharpen iron so we can really go and take up some space internationally, because the man them take our culture and making a bag off of it. Okay. So we're suggesting to integrate policy development, including screen quotas, tax incentives, and funding models, to coordinate resource mobilization and professional mentorship programs, diaspora engagement strategies to expand market access and investment, and promotion of film as a tool for national and regional pride, social cohesion, and youth empowerment. And I've left those 2 last spaces for you to consider. Based on this entire conversation that we've just had a while ago, what are some of the things that you as a Tanty at the table would bring to this policy conversation when it comes on to preserving and expanding our stories and how important it is for national development and cultural preservation? That's your homework. Thank you so much for listening.
Amazing, amazing. So you heard from all of us. We gave you some different perspectives, a lot to think about. I know it was very engaging. I like to see the engagement between the audience and the panelists. But what are some key takeaways for you from what we've presented today? So I want to hear from the audience. What are some takeaways for you? Anyone? Floor is open.
I was just saying Nigeria is producing a lot of films and making a lot of money, and the U.S. model doesn't have to be scaled to the Caribbean. The Nigerian model is probably what's best. And then also another takeaway is telling the stories of the elders and passing on that knowledge is this is a new history and a new learning process. I want to say I always thought media and filmmaking was a propaganda tool used to colonize, because if I'm from America, and if you look at like Birth of a Nation, which is the first film that was screened in the screened in the White House, it depicted black Americans as less than. And so if you put this big screen all over the world, people believe it. So I think this is where a fight is happening. Those in power are continuing to make money off of showing us negatively, and we're trying to show us positively. We're trying to use this to humanize us. And so it's really going to be a fight of like who's doing the righteous work. So thank you.
All right. Good comments. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the Tantified space that you all have created. Very beautiful, really anchored, and it is embodied exactly the message you all are actually trying to share as well, in terms of allowing us to connect with who we are, get stronger by grounding ourselves in our own stories and where we're coming from, and designing a route towards where we want to go that has clarity of all the dynamics of what we've experienced. And I really, really want to say thank you. Thank you for each and every one of you all for really defining what Black Girl Magic looks like.
Thank you.
So I want to say thanks for that. I really, really hope that we're all able to take away what it means when she says iron sharpens iron, because we have a battle and we're going to win it. Thank you.
The question for me would be, what's next? How do we stay connected? And how do we quantify?
That's why we're here. We're collecting everyone's contact. Because the idea is, if we can connect with all the filmmakers across the region, and it turns into a full community where we can iron sharpen iron, one hand can clap, so we both clap together. You know, we're gonna have something spectacular going here. Because what I have recognized being in multiple spaces, US film space, Nigerian film space, and most recently Jamaican film space, we can't do it alone. The one island is not equipped to maintain the content required to maintain a screen quota. It will have to be collectively. The islands would have to come together to generate this robust content that can now live on different platforms in its own category, where when people go to watch that category, they know I'm gonna get something from the islands. When you go to Netflix, you type in Nollywood, it streams up. Type in Caribbean. Did you mean? Right? So, you know, I'm just empowering everyone here to look within, you know. Tell a friend to tell a friend that, you know, our industry is coming, and if we don't take up space, they will take it up for us, right? And we already understand where that's going, because we see how music is moving, right? Music is kind of like, you don't have to poke the bear, but it's there, it makes money, whether or not you invest in it, yes or no. But that's not going to be the same with film. It needs some work, and we just can't do it alone. We have to go with our neighbors. Anyone else has anything else? Any takeaways from the presentation?
So I work in culinary, so mine is different, but everything is the same. So everything is the same. We have the same challenges. I'm from Ghana, so I will also say that Nigeria is also a very special case. 300 million people, and Ghana cannot figure it out the same way as Nigeria, even though we're like...
They got the eyes.
Yeah, so I think, you know, in terms of producing and consuming, right? But I think it's important to learn certain lessons. When we're talking about diaspora, we're looking at something like Idris Elba coming back and setting up, you know, so I think you can see certain lessons that are happening around. I would also take lessons from outside of film that you will see happening in other areas. I think that we need to make sure that we're doing both ground up and top down, I guess,
in both ways, because even if you come through as an outlier, you need the structure to be able to be successful. And I say that from the point of view of like my chocolates. Like, we are a chocolate company that's in America, but like getting Americans or anybody else to buy a product that comes from the there's like a whole bunch of systemic issues that you need to fight, and you can't do it by yourself, and you need
Absolutely.
to go with others. And I think that's where when you look across other industries to see how people are working together, and I call it Nelson Mandela approach, where it's like you got to go out to come back in, and sometimes we have to do that strategy. But I think as a group, as a region, it can work, you know, but it has to be kind of different people working from different angles.
Absolutely.
And it needs to be a bit guerrilla. Like, it does need to be guerrilla.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just people who are policymakers, you know, in those old African stories, they talk about kingmakers, right? So we would need people positioned as policymakers who understand the industry and what it requires. So a little bit of both, absolutely. Anyone else? All right. If no one else, I know the time is far spent, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming out to our presentation. And of course, you know, stick around, give us your contacts. We want to know what kind of, you know, creator industry you're from. And we want to stay connected. And of course, I'm going to do the shameless plug. Go to www.threadsofusfilm.com. We're still in post-production. And also, if you want to see that film in your country, you can contact me. All right.
Up and make we steam it. Fresh, so me need it. Tilapia a real fish. Cook it up and make we roast it. Farm fresh, so me need it. Tilapia a real fish. Grow smart at the best part. Food for thought, so me have to eat smart. Easy catch, fully net. A tilapia, so you don't know what's next. Cook it up and make we fry it. Fresh, so me need it. Tilapia a real fish. Bring home the best in freshwater fish. High content of vitamin B3, protein and potassium. Tilapia.